Let's bring in Doug Gottlieb from Fox Sports. Doug, what did you make of the Rick Pitino interview?
Look, I personally believe that Rick Pitino is the greatest modern day coach. I think he's better in X and O's than most of the other ones that are considered at his level. And I think all the other aspects of what he has brought to both college basketball and even, embracing the three-point shot with the New York Knicks. He did it before. He's well ahead of his time. Remember, they tanked with the Boston Celtics? They were tanking ahead of their time.
You're prefacing this, Doug. What did you make of the interview?
I just, he's either been around with some really, really, really bad luck. Like, man, this is all bad luck. Or there's a good bit of denial into what he's fostered. Whether or not he gave money or he did this or he did this. These things happened. Enough of them happened within his program to where he is. I think he'll coach again. And I think kind of that's par for the course. I mean, we're watching a comeback at the Masters right now. But, man, I think that Rick Pitino is really, 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 really unlucky, or he's misremembering at least part of the truth or telling it in a way in which it makes him far more innocent than he is.
What I don't understand, and you would know this better than me, and that's the role of the assistant coaches. Do they have total autonomy to do stuff, and then can they keep that from their head coach? Can you have assistant coaches doing this and somehow not worried about the wrath of Rick Pitino that you're having strippers come into a dorm room?
Look, is it – so, look, my brother's been an assistant for 20 years. My dad, before he passed, was an assistant coach for, I think it was close to 15 years in college basketball. And part of this is from what they have told me. Part of this is from what friends told me. Part of it is the idea that Rick Pitino knew everything about every assistant coach. Now, look, if you talk to Pitino's recent assistant coaches, they're like, yeah, he's a lot more disconnected. And, coaches will say, just get it done. Get it done. Keep him out of the bars. Keep him out of the strip clubs. Don't get arrested. Just get it done. And sometimes get it done, fosters, the type of behavior that you don't want. That said, when you're Pitino and you're operating in a life in which you may not think you're wearing a scarlet letter, but everybody else does, I think it's at least naive to believe that assistant coaches could do these things and no one knew anything about it. Did he know directly about it? I'm willing to believe he probably didn't. Right? Nobody wants to tell Coach Pitino what they're doing, but I'm guessing somebody else in the program did, and that might leak up to him. And the idea that he wouldn't shut it down, that he wouldn't accept any sort of responsibility, that's the part that I think doesn't sit well with most people. So can assistant coaches operate in complete autonomy? Some parts of their life you don't know about. I mean, really, that's part of this FBI investigation, which is, some of these guys were doing things, taking Peter to pay Paul, robbing Peter to pay Paul. And, yeah, there's just some parts you don't know sometimes about somebody's personal life. But I do think that Rick Pitino is known for knowing the body fat and body mass percentage of every assistant coach. I mean, he was incredibly in tune with everything going on within his program for such a long period of time. To be so disconnected would be very un-Pitino-like, considering what his reputation is.
Talking to Doug Gottlieb, Fox Sports college basketball analyst. Give me two players who helped their draft stock in the tournament and two players who hurt their draft stock.
Well, you can't help your draft stock any more than Dante DiVincenzo does, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't, and honestly, I don't think it was as much the 3-point shots. The offensive rebound putbacks in the Elite Eight game against Texas. I mean, to any of us who have watched Villanova, he's an absolute freak athlete, and he's a really good defender. Now, the problem is the West Virginia game, you saw him, and he was throwing the ball all over the court. And then even the end of the Final Four when they were being pressed, he's throwing the ball all over the court. He's just not a point guard. But, I mean, Dante's kind of the one that jumps out at you, right?
Yeah.
And then, Jalen Brunson. I mean, I think everyone knows Jalen Brunson is going to be a really, really hard eval. He just is. He's not athletic. And he's at a position to which now you have to be athletic. He's a great post scorer, but you don't score in the post really anymore in the NBA, let alone when you're a 6'1" guard. But, I mean, Jalen Brunson's complete command and control. I mean, we have a tendency to do this. Remember, Torian Green got drafted too high. There's been plenty of players that have won a national championship that have been drafted high. I think Malik Newman, who entered his name in the draft, from Kansas and is going to sign with an agent. I think there's no doubt that he helped his stock. So there's some other players, but I mean, DiVincenzo came from not on anyone's radar in terms of declaring this year to, hey, that's a really interesting decision because they have a point guard coming in, so he's not going to play the point solely next year, and you can't do any better than what he was able to do on Monday night.
Would you tell him to go pro?
Probably not. Probably not. I mean, he's a redshirt sophomore. He's got 2 more years. I don't know how much you've had conversation with the Villanova kids, but they're just wired differently. It's almost like they're programmed. It's almost, I mean, it's like if there's a good kind of cult, that's what they are, right? Where they're completely about team. They're incredibly selfless. Like Josh Hart, the Lakers. Josh Hart's like a 6'2". He was a 3'4" in college, and he is untradeable for the Lakers because he does that much for their culture. So those kids are just wired differently. But I mean, like, again, it all comes. What did you go to college for? Did you go to college to have a chance? They got a chance to win it again next year, and you get selfish about winning. And I would say, I wouldn't. It's the greatest for him. It'll be 5 years of his life because he broke his foot. And you want to improve. You want to be ready when you get there. And I don't think he's ready because he's not there as a ball handler. But look, if you want to just go get paid and get the quick check, that's absolutely out there for him because he has breathtaking athleticism. He's an incredible competitor. He can make some shots, and there's value for that in the league.
Who becomes the better pro out of Grayson Allen, Trae Young, Dante DiVincenzo?
I think it's Trae, but look, I think somebody's going to get fired over Trae Young. They just are because there's going to be a desire to play him right away, and there's a big bust potential there. He doesn't have great practice habits. It's not that he's not a good defender. He doesn't even try, and then he's little, and he has to have the ball in his hands a lot in order to be Trae Young, and somebody's going to give him that ball, and there's going to be some really, really bad nights, and it's really hard to win. And more than anything, I mean, look at how his team kind of shut down on him when he stopped making shots. His teammates did not embrace his style, did not embrace the volume of shots and possessions that he had the basketball. And he's an outstanding passer. He has no marks in terms of being a bad kid, but he's not considered a leader. And he's little. And remember, in the NBA, I know Isaiah Thomas had one great season being little, but that team was tailor-made around that with great defenders. In the NBA now, everybody switches. And it's one thing when you can't guard the point guards, another thing when you can't guard anybody. And, he's going to get sliced and diced, and because he's Trae Young and because he's popular and he hits shots and he shimmies like Steph Curry, everybody's wanting for the next Steph Curry. And there's a lot more Jimmer Fredette to his game than there is Steph Curry. And so I think he'll be the better pro, but I think there'll be some really, really big lumps along the way.
Thank you, Doug. We appreciate it as always.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.